What if I told you there is a car collection so expensive that its total value could rival the entire GDP of some small countries? Not a company, not a government, one man. Because when you step into the world of Mohammed bin Salman, you are not just looking at wealth, you are looking at power expressed through machines that most people will never even see in their lifetime. And this is not exaggeration. This is a level of luxury where cars are not just vehicles. They are masterpieces, investments, and sometimes even experiments in extreme engineering. But here is where it gets even more interesting. Unlike celebrities who show off their garages on social media or athletes who arrive at matches in flashy supercars, much of Mohammed bin Salman collection is hidden, private, guarded, almost mythical. And that mystery is exactly what makes it so fascinating, because the less people see, the more they want to know. Now imagine this, a secured underground facility somewhere in Saudi Arabia, climate-controlled, silent, protected by layers of security that most people cannot even imagine. Inside, cars worth millions, sitting side by side like rare artifacts in a museum that only a handful of people on Earth will ever enter. And among those cars, there are some names that instantly stand out. Let us start with something truly unbelievable, the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren Sterling Moss. This is not just a luxury car. This is a tribute to one of the greatest racing drivers in history, designed with no roof and no windshield, built purely for the experience. Only 75 units of this car were ever produced. 75. That is it. And owning one already puts you in an elite category. But reports suggest that Mohammed bin Salman did not just own one, he owned multiple. Now pause for a second. Most collectors would consider themselves lucky to get access to even one of these. But owning more than one? That is not collecting. That is domination of a market so rare that very few people can even enter it. And this is just the beginning, because then comes the Bugatti collection. When you hear the name Bugatti, you already know you are stepping into the highest tier of automotive engineering. Now imagine not owning one Bugatti, but multiple. Cars like the Bugatti Veyron and Bugatti Chiron are already considered some of the fastest and most expensive production vehicles ever built. Each one costing millions, each one engineered to push the limits of speed and design. And yet, for Mohammed bin Salman, these are just part of a much larger collection. Because at this level of wealth, owning one of something rare is not enough. The real flex is having access to many. Now let us take it even further. There have been reports and rumors surrounding a gold-plated Lamborghini Aventador. Not gold-colored, not gold-wrapped, gold-plated. A car that looks like it was pulled straight out of a fantasy. Shining, reflecting, impossible to ignore. Now think about the level of customization required for something like that. This is not something you walk into a dealership and buy. This is a project, a statement, a demonstration that money is no longer a limitation. But here's the deeper layer. Cars like these are not always meant to be driven. Sometimes they are meant to exist as symbols, as pieces of art, as proof of what is possible when wealth reaches an extreme level. And that is exactly what defines this collection. It is not about practicality. It is not even about performance. It is about pushing boundaries. Now imagine walking through this hidden garage. On one side, hypercars with engines that produce over 1,000 horsepower. On the other, rare vintage models that carry decades of history. Every car has a story. Every car represents a moment in automotive evolution. And yet, none of them are visible to the public. That is the paradox of extreme wealth. The most valuable things are often the least seen. And Mohammed bin Salman understands this better than most. Because in his world, privacy is power, control is everything, and visibility is optional. But let us talk numbers for a moment, because this is where things become almost unbelievable. While exact figures are not publicly confirmed, estimates suggest that his car collection could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, possibly even more when including rare acquisitions, custom builds, and one-of-a-kind vehicles. Now compare that to small economies around the world. There are countries whose annual economic output is not far from that range, which means in a very real sense, this is not just a car collection. It is an economic force, and that changes how you look at it entirely. Now here is something most people do not realize. At this level, collecting cars is not just about passion, it is also about strategy. Rare cars appreciate in value over time. Limited production vehicles become more desirable as years pass, and one-of-one creations, they become priceless. So while it may look like spending, it is often investment, but not the kind of investment most people understand. This is not about short-term returns. This is about legacy, owning assets that will remain valuable for decades, even centuries. And that is a completely different way of thinking. Now let me ask you something. If you had access to unlimited wealth, would you spend it on things people can see? Or would you build a private world filled with rare, untouchable assets that only a few people know exist? Because that is exactly what this collection represents. It is not just about cars. It is about creating a world that operates on a different level. A level where exclusivity matters more than visibility, where rarity matters more than price, where ownership matters more than attention. And once you understand that, everything starts to make sense. Now here is where the story takes an even more interesting turn. Because Mohammed bin Salman is not just a collector, he is part of a new generation of leadership that is reshaping Saudi Arabia. From massive development projects to global investments, his influence extends far beyond personal luxury. And in that context, this car collection becomes something else entirely. It becomes a reflection of a broader vision, a vision where Saudi Arabia positions itself at the center of innovation, luxury, and global influence. Because when you operate at this scale, nothing is isolated. Everything connects, even cars. Now imagine the conversations that happen behind closed doors. Discussions about acquiring rare models before they even enter the market. Negotiations with manufacturers for exclusive builds. Access to vehicles that are never offered to the public. This is not the world of dealerships. This is the world of direct access. And that is what separates billionaires from everyone else. Access. The ability to get what others cannot. The ability to move in spaces that are completely invisible to the outside world. And Mohammed bin Salman operates in that space effortlessly. Now think about this. Some of the cars in his collection might never be driven, never be photographed, never be revealed. They exist, but only within a controlled environment, almost like hidden treasures. And that creates a strange kind of power, because when people know something exists, but cannot see it, it becomes more valuable in their minds, more mysterious, more legendary. And that is exactly what has happened with this collection. It has become a story, a symbol, a glimpse into a world that feels almost unreal, but it is real. And that is what makes it so powerful. And if you really think about it, this kind of collection changes the meaning of ownership itself. Because at that level, you are not just buying cars, you are buying time, history, and exclusivity all at once. Some of these vehicles will outlive trends, outlive markets, and possibly even outlive generations. They become artifacts of an era where engineering met unlimited resources. And that creates something powerful. Not just wealth, but permanence. While most people chase things that lose value the moment they are purchased, collections like this move in the opposite direction. They grow, they evolve, they become more legendary with time. And maybe that is the real secret behind it all. It is not about having the most expensive cars today. It is about owning pieces of the world that will still matter tomorrow, long after everything else fades. Now here is the final thought. Most people spend their entire lives trying to acquire things that signal success. A house, a car, a lifestyle. But at the highest level of wealth, the game changes completely. It is no longer about signaling. It is about controlling what is seen and what is hidden. And Mohammed bin Salman has mastered that balance. His car collection is not just expensive, it is strategic, it is private, it is almost invisible. And that is what makes it more valuable than anything you can simply show off. Because sometimes, the true measure of wealth is not what you display to the world, it is what you can afford to keep entirely to yourself.